Are you in competitive Overwatch ELO hell? And how do you break out of it? Hey everyone, my name is Elvis. Let's jump into this straight away. Now, I recently watched a video that was put up by Force, and I'm a big fan of Force, and I know a lot of you guys are as well who are subscribed to my channel. He talked about how, yes, you can solo queue and move up very easily in Overwatch. In fact, he was quite successful in just one afternoon. Well, there's another side of the story that I want to talk about that really did get unspoken. To understand ELO hell, here's my personal experience. Now, I was ranked super low. My placement games were a fucking nightmare. Go good or bad on these. I'm talking like from really inexperienced players to DCs to unplayable lag, forced to play a tank most of the time and does hurt your stats. I ended up losing 6 games, winning 3 and drawing once. I believe so. Something like that. It was terrible. It was a shit experience, to be absolutely honest with you. If you rank under a certain number, ELO hell kicks in, and it did for myself. Sometimes you're just unlucky, you can't help things like DCs and lag, you just get the short straw sometimes. Now, I've also had games multiple times with things like an attack Symmetra and Torbjorn in the same team. Pretty much peanuts to take care of if you're a competent DPS player. Most of the time you have, an alternative tank, for example, D.Va or Roadhog, maybe a healer if you're super lucky. Usually you're forced to play a tank or a healer because no one else wants to. In fact, I've heard on 2 different occasions people complaining about 2 healers. That's the type of stuff that you deal with in quite low ranks. Now, all of these things obviously suck. Now, if you put this in a 2 steps forward, 1 step back system, it starts to get really difficult if you have the unfortunate fate of ranking pretty bad with your placement games. Here's where things get even worse though. The system loves your ELO hell. It loves it. It lubes its chubby up with your grief. But for real, you also have to understand, it also compensates for your MMR. So to explain this, if you're a skilled player, hypothetically better than most or all of the other players on the opposite team, it'll actually balance you out with their team by offering less skilled players on yours. And you also have to remember there's a 1,000 season rank point bracket. So you're pretty much always going to get worse players than the other team if you are a good player. So you're basically fucked, to be honest. If you place really bad in your placement games, you're dealing with less skilled players in general, even less skilled players to compensate for your MMR if you're a decent player in teams that don't understand team comps and basic competitive meta, all who want to play DPS and try be Surefour and Seagull. Some games you just can't carry these teams. So in the opposite example, if you are able to climb very well, after a certain tier, most players know how to play and understand basic stuff. Like having a Symmetra and Torbjorn on attack is going to give both you and your team a 90% chance of losing. But I've got a solution for you all anyway. The good news is you can team up with friends and climb back up to that player level of people who understand the game a little bit more than lower ranks. If I could take one positive thing about the ELO hell experience that I've just kind of started to climb out of, is it's going to make for a pretty fun series. So you're welcome to join in and watch as I upload some competitive games. And just remember, if you're going to play competitive, there's nothing wrong with being competitive. That's the whole point. So I wanted to give that side of the argument as well. There's a snowballing effect after a certain tier if you did place pretty bad. Thanks for joining me as always. Check the description below for reference in the video that this discussion adds on top of anyway. See you guys.